Hey, let's talk about that person whose absence feels louder than most people's presence ever did. You know the one, the person who turned your properly organized life into a scattered deck of cards. And even now, months or maybe years later, you're still finding pieces of them in corners you forgot to check. You've become an archaeologist of your own past, haven't you? Digging through layers of memory, trying to carbon date exactly when things started falling apart. Was it that Tuesday when they didn't laugh at your joke? That Friday when their kiss felt like punctuation instead of poetry? Or was it earlier, in those microscopic moments you missed because you were too busy being in love to notice love leaving? The cruelest joke of all is that they're probably fine. While you're here, constructing elaborate theories about fate and timing and parallel universes where things worked out, they're probably just living, making their coffee with one sugar instead of two, the way you never understood, sleeping diagonally across the bed because there's no one to share it with, and finding that space feels like freedom, not absence. Your friends want you to move on. They say this gently at first, then with increasing frustration, like you're choosing to stay in a burning building. And maybe you are, but what they don't understand is that even a burning building feels safer than whatever comes after. Because at least the flames are familiar. At least the smoke still smells like what home used to be. You've tried to make them the villain in this story, because villains are easier to leave. You've replayed every slight, magnified every flaw, built a case against them that would hold up in any court except the one that matters, your heart. But the truth keeps acquitting them. They weren't cruel. They weren't calculating. They were just done. And somehow that's worse than cruelty, because at least cruelty means you mattered enough to hurt on purpose. There's this moment that comes, usually at 3 a.m, when your defenses are sleeping, where you realize you've been having entire conversations with someone who isn't there. You've been saving funny stories for someone who won't hear them. You've been leaving space in your bed for someone who's probably sprawled across someone else's. Your life has become a museum dedicated to someone who never asked for the exhibition. The world is full of people like you, though you'd never know it from their faces. That barista who smiled at you this morning, she still drives 40 minutes out of her way to avoid passing his street. Your colleague who seems so put together, he still can't eat strawberries because she loved them, and now they taste like grief. We're all walking around with these invisible amputations, these phantom limbs that ache when the weather changes, when that song comes on, when someone walks by wearing the same cologne. You know what nobody tells you about getting over someone? That it's not linear. You don't slowly feel better day by day like healing from a normal wound. Instead, you have good weeks that make you think you're finally free. Then you smell lavender, or see a red Toyota, or hear someone order their exact coffee order, and suddenly you're back at day one, crying in a parking lot, wondering if you're broken for still feeling this much. What small, stupid thing still breaks you? Leave it in the comments. Sometimes naming the trigger takes away its power. You've become an expert at magical thinking. If you don't date anyone else, maybe they'll come back. If you keep their favorite mug, maybe one morning they'll need it. If you don't delete the photos, maybe this isn't really over. You're holding your breath underwater, convinced that if you just don't breathe long enough, you'll grow gills. But lungs don't work that way, and neither does love. Here's what you're slowly learning, though it feels like swallowing glass. They loved you and still left. Those two truths can exist simultaneously. The love was real, and it ended. The ending doesn't erase the love, but the love doesn't prevent the ending. You're trying to solve an equation that isn't meant to balance. Your heart is still writing checks to someone who closed that account long ago. You're sending letters to an address that no longer exists, wondering why they never write back. You're showing up to a dance where the music stopped playing, where the lights came on, where everyone else has already gone home. But you're also still here. Still waking up despite the weight on your chest. Still showering, even when you'll see no one. Still feeding yourself, even when everything tastes like cardboard. These tiny acts of persistence, they're not nothing. They're everything. They're proof that some part of you, maybe the smartest part, knows that your life is bigger than this loss, even when it doesn't feel that way. When was the last time you did something just because it made you happy? Not to forget them, not to prove you're okay, but just because. The truth that you're circling around, the one you touch, then pull away from like it's too hot to hold, is this. You might never fully get over them. They might always be a tender spot, a place where you're permanently rearranged. And that's actually okay. You don't have to get over them to get on with your life. You just have to learn to carry them differently. Think about grief for a second, not just romantic grief, but all grief. You don't get over losing someone who mattered. You just learn to carry it. The weight doesn't disappear, but you get stronger. Your capacity expands. You become someone who can hold loss and lunch plans, heartbreak and hope, absence and abundance all at once. Right now, you're in the middle of becoming someone new. Not someone better. You were never not enough. But someone different. Someone who knows what it's like to love without guarantees. To give your whole heart, knowing it might get returned to sender. Someone who understands that survival isn't about being unbreakable, but about breaking and continuing anyway. One morning, and you won't know which morning until it's already happened. You'll wake up and their name won't be the first thing you think. You'll make coffee and it will just be coffee, not a reminder of how they took theirs. You'll hear that song and maybe you'll feel something, a little tug like scar tissue pulling. But you won't have to leave the store. You'll realize you stopped counting the days since they left because the number has lost its meaning. You'll stop checking if they watched your story. You'll stop crafting your life to be something they might want to return to. You'll just be living, messily and fully, without an audience of one who isn't watching anyway. And maybe, probably, certainly, you'll love again. It won't be the same. How could it be? You're not the same. But it will be real and good and worth the risk, even knowing how risk turned out last time. Because that's what we do. We're ridiculous, hopeful creatures who keep believing in love, even when love has given us every reason not to. Here's my question for you. If you knew they were never coming back, what would you do differently starting tomorrow? Sometimes admitting the truth is the first step to freedom. But for now, for today, just be gentle with yourself. You're not pathetic for still caring. You're not weak for still crying. You're not broken for still loving someone who chose to leave. You're just human. Gorgeously and terribly human. Feeling the full weight of what it means to have loved and lost. Your heart is doing exactly what hearts do. Holding on too long. Hoping too much. Hurting too deeply. Let it. Feel it all. The alternative isn't healing. It's numbness. And you deserve better than numbness. You deserve to feel everything. Even this. Especially this. Because this is proof that you know how to love. And knowing how to love even when it hurts this much, is the only thing that makes any of us worth a damn. So here's to you, watching this at whatever ungodly hour, probably in bed, probably crying, probably wondering if you'll ever feel normal again. You will, and you won't. You'll feel a new kind of normal, one that includes this loss but isn't defined by it. One where their ghost becomes less of a haunting and more of a reminder that you once loved fearlessly, and you'll do it again. Not because you've forgotten them, but because remembering them doesn't require you to stop living. Because your life, your beautiful, messy, unpredictable life, is still happening, with or without them. And you're still here for all of it. That's not moving on. That's moving forward. And there's a difference. Hey, you made it to the end. That already means you're going to be okay. Take care, friend.